And you want to give it a nice little snap at the end, all right?
Yeah. A little lower.
A little lower. There we go. There we go. Awesome.
We are here, SpartanUpPodcast.com. No good? Oh.
That's perfect. Keep going.
We are here, SpartanUpPodcast.com. And in case you didn't hear that, we are here, SpartanUpPodcast.com.
Where are we?
Yeah,
What are we
exactly.
doing?
We are at the Amy Barn with Dr. Johnny Way. We are with Sapphire, our wilderness expert, and we are with the singing colonel.
And our wonderful Marion,
And Marion, who does
Behind the camera.
the video for some of our podcasts.
our intellectual, keeps us on track.
We're laughing because she's always carrying the camera. We've been in blizzards together. We swam 10 miles together. She had to hold the camera underwater while I was swimming, being chased by a shark. Anyway, interviewed Howard Chang, had the opportunity, came here. Pittsfield, I had the awesome experience, maybe I should tell you after the interview, of visiting him down in the Bahamas, and I'll tell you what we did on his beach
Yeah.
for a mile and a half. It was awesome.
You'll be shocked.
You'll be
You
shocked.
will be shocked.
He runs a business, an awesome business up in Canada. His first success did not work out. Success turned into failure, but he got himself back up like we have so many guests do, and he ended up crushing it. He was a black belt at an early age, but I'm not going to tell you too much. Why don't we watch it, and you'll learn more.
Good,
Cool.
good.
Ready? All right, we are here, Spartan Up the Podcast in Vermont with Howard Chang, who was, what would you call yourself, the national champion in what martial art?
I was, at 17, I won a national championship in karate.
In karate. Let's walk and talk,
Yeah.
because we're going to walk slow, though, because
Yeah.
our producer is very particular. So, so how do you become a national champion at 17? When did you start doing karate?
Well, I actually, ironically, didn't study karate that long. I started studying judo at 9 and quickly picked up a number of different martial arts, including karate, but it also included Thai kickboxing. The challenge for me is I actually found martial arts too easy.
Really?
I got my black belt at 16, I became a national champion at 17, and frankly, I got a little bit disengaged at that point.
Because it was too easy.
It was too easy.
And so is that, you think you're just from a lineage of like Bruce Lee types or something?
I actually think just from a genetic makeup, I'm a 100% fast twitch guy. I'm naturally eye-hand. So what I decided to do, because I found that too easy, I decided to take on something that would be incredibly hard for me, which is endurance.
At what age?
At 17, I made the switch.
You made a switch and you said you were going to do something that you weren't comfortable doing,
Absolutely.
which is hard for people to do.
Yeah.
Because we always go towards things that are comfortable for us to do. So
Yeah.
that's a unique attribute.
Well, I think part of it is because I knew from a growth point of view, I wasn't intellectualizing it, I just felt it in my gut. From a growth point of view, I had to explore something else. So I decided to try to take on something I wasn't good at, which was endurance.
Right. And you crushed it?
I wouldn't say I crushed it. I started in competitive cycling, and I was terrible at it in the beginning. Like I said, I'm a 100% fast twitch guy, so I was great in the last 200 meters of any race. If I was there, I would usually win. But I had to work on the aspects, so I had to do a lot of hours on the bike. It takes me twice as long to build endurance as someone like you, who's probably more natural at it. But it gave me a mountain to climb, essentially, and it got me to focus, learn how to set goals very early, and also learn how to deal with a bit of humiliation and defeat. I was so used to winning at everything I did. Now I was losing at every race.
Isn't that wild? Because that's not a natural tendency to go towards something that you're going to be losing.
I might be a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
I might.
But that's a good attribute.
I think it's helpful. It has helped me to go on in life because, you know, I made the national team eventually. I won a provincial champion in cycling. I won a provincial championships. I eventually started coaching in the sport. But as I went into business, what I found is that ability to fail, pick yourself up, and rebuild was essential. I mean, I was very successful in business in my 20s.
What part do you think is important? Is it the fail? Is it the pick yourself up? Which part is the part where we learn?
I think sport teaches you resiliency.
Right.
You know, we bend, we don't break. So whether that's a guy like me trying to do 100 burpees, which for me would be incredibly difficult, I did my 100 burpees first time out because quitting wasn't an option. I just had to do it. I did puke a little bit. Did I? Oh, no, anyways, but I think that's part of what is crafted through exercise and sport.
Yeah. Let's walk some more. We're going to walk this way because I don't want to have you fall down the mountain. All right. So in sport, you fail.
Yeah.
You pick yourself up, or some people don't.
Some people don't,
Right.
and I've seen that too.
And then you move on, and you hopefully you build resiliency, like you said, and you get better. And you think that applies to business?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I read a stat once that the average millionaire has bankrupted at least twice. Right. And I think when I went through a dramatic business fail at 30, I made my first million at 22. I, owned houses, owned beautiful cars, and at 30, I had a massive business fail when the bank called their line. I went bankrupt, and I spent 9 months living in my parents' basement apartment, single dad of 2 kids.
Wow.
Ironically, everybody around me, my family, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, so everybody was saying, well, you should get a job as a bike courier because you're a cyclist, or you should get a job as a taxi driver. I never, ever even thought that was an option. I was just working on my next venture.
Right.
So yes, I was eating craft
You had
dinner.
it in your gut.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, most people, my dad used to say, don't have the stomach for entrepreneurship. What does that mean, the stomach? Like, is it because everything that can go wrong does go wrong, or?
Well, I think as an entrepreneur, the buck stops here. So you don't have a support group. My sister is the CEO of a large Fortune 500 company, and she's got a support team of 40,000 people. Right. And so I think as an entrepreneur, you always feel ultimately responsible for everything. You're not a hired gun, essentially.
Right.
And so you do need to have a lot of intestinal fortitude, to get through some of those very tough moments. I mean, there are moments when you question everything about yourself, your ability, your talent, your sanity.
The road you're on.
The road you're on,
yeah.
Exactly.
So do you think, hang on a second, just looking around for my dog, I see her. Do you think a guy like you, 17 years old, national championship karate, out of nowhere, then goes and crushes it in cycling, then becomes a young millionaire, fails, picks himself back up, your sister shoots right to the top, she's running a Fortune 500 company. What did your parents do that, like, were you guys on steroids? Were you test tube babies that were experiments? What?
My parents were amazing. They lived a good life in Taiwan. They were quite wealthy, self-made. And when they came to Canada, they had to leave everything behind, because at the time, Taiwan was kind of like a fascist government. You couldn't take anything with you. So for the first 18 months in Canada, we lived above a laundromat. I mean, stereotypical immigrant story. 7 of us packed into a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat.
But maybe that's good.
I think it was good. And my parents, they learned to speak English better. They got jobs. We lived a middle-class existence. We were not wealthy by any means, but we were taught a work ethic. And we were also allowed to explore and have adventure in the world. They didn't over-coddle us, which I think was a very, very important part.
You walked to school.
We walked to school. We did way crazier things than that. My sister and I, at 16, took a train up to North Bay, 400 miles north of Toronto, and we backpacked for 3 weeks in the backcountry at 16.
Wow.
So, yeah, my parents, either they were ignorant of our craziness or they allowed it, one way or the other.
It worked, though, right?
It did, absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking to famous people like Richard Branson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says his mom would make him run 20 miles home or bike 100 miles.
Right.
And so I think our instinct as parents is, oh, let's coddle them, but maybe your parents did the right thing.
Yeah, and I think also as a struggling immigrant family, I don't think you can coddle that much. So I think they had the benefit of circumstance as well. When I look at a lot of my peers who are, well off, dual income, I think sometimes they coddle and perhaps even give cash to compensate for really managing the upbringing of their children.
Yeah. Do we want to hold for a second while we have this beeping sound?
I hope you're not sitting still while you listen. If you are, you better get a burpee break in.
All right, so living above the laundromat was a good thing, and maybe giving kids too much, like you just said, people compensate with money or whatever, maybe that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a temptation to be a helicopter parent because our kids are precious.
Yeah.
I think, we do need to have the benefit of perspective around that and to understand that, just as when you train an athlete, they have to go through adversity
Yeah.
in order to succeed in sport. Well, you need to go through adversity to succeed in life. So, yeah, your kids are going to skin their knees, so you teach them how to heal, you teach them how to pick themselves up. I think that's a healthier process.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. How would you be ready for what the world is if you haven't practiced it?
Right.
Right? And
Right.
the world does break us down and force us to pick ourselves back up. So what's your current business?
So I'm the founder and CEO of a very unique ad agency in Toronto. We're the first B Corp certified ad agency, which means that we meet very high standards of kind of social and environmental responsibility. I actually just recently got named to the Clean 50 Leaders of Canada because of the work that we do. Our agency actually specializes in the active, healthy lifestyle space, and we also do work in sustainability and social cause work as well.
And what kind of clients do you seek or work with?
We have a lot of clients in the sports space. We like sports brands as well as retailers in the sports space. We also have clients in the nutrition, like the all-natural organic nutrition space. Canada's largest green energy company is one of our clients. So they're all kind of like linked to us through values.
I was going to say, isn't it funny how you end up doing business with the kind of companies that you want to be around?
Yeah, and again, that's part of the benefit of being an entrepreneur is ultimately you want to choose the people you want to hang out with,
Yeah,
right? I'm at this event because I want to be with people I want to hang out with.
Sure,
And I think
sure.
building that kind of community and focusing on the value of those kind of relationships is really important.
Yeah. What's your favorite exercise?
Well, I'd lie and say burpees, but I'm not going to. Right now, actually, my favorite exercise is stand-up paddleboarding.
I actually know that about you. That's
Yes.
right. I tried that with you.
Yeah, because again, it's a new challenge, and one of my challenges now is learning how to not just paddle on flat water, but to actually surf waves with it. Because, I've done a little bit of surfing, I'm not terribly good at it, and I love to take anything I'm not very good at it
And get good
and
at it.
challenge myself with it. Yeah.
And that's, I think, the lesson for today is get out of your comfort zone and do things that you're not necessarily good at. And meet people that you don't know, right? And it leads you somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, we did it.
Great interview as always, but I think you left us wanting a little bit more about that beach story. Because tell us that a little bit quickly.
I don't know if I should.
Yeah.
Yes,
This might have to be censored for our
I'm kidding.
viewers.
We had dinner. You don't know about this. We didn't talk about it in the interview. We had dinner with Simon Whitfield, Howard and I. Simon, Olympic champion, Canadian triathlete, who we will be interviewing here someday on the podcast. And that night we came up with a challenge, Simon, myself, and Howard, and said, why don't we do a true burpee mile, not a CrossFit burpee mile, which isn't an actual mile. I woke up 5 a.m. Simon didn't show up. Howard didn't show up. And I'm not knocking Howard, but he wasn't there at 5 a.m. And I started doing burpees on this black beach. It was pitch black. And I had no marker to tell me where a mile was. Well, afterwards, after I'd collapsed, it was about 1.5 miles I had gone. And it was awful. There's very little relevance to the interview, what I'm telling you. But he's got an awesome place down in the Bahamas that he was able to afford because of his success up in Canada running an incredible business. And as you saw with the interview, he stumbled a few times in his life before he was able to pick himself back up and make it happen. What do you guys think of the whole black belt thing at such a young age and such abilities?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say what I thought was interesting is here's a guy, as he said, natural talent, fast twitch fibers. He said that he just was a real natural for karate. But once he got to the top of that game, he decided to try something else and to put himself in a position where he wasn't comfortable, where he wasn't naturally good at something.
Which
with
is the
endurance.
hard thing to do, right?
Yeah, it's just people just don't do that. And, especially young people don't do that. So I think...
Like going out on the beach at 5 a.m.
Exactly. No, but I
right?
said young people.
Right.
Old guys quite often will do things like that. So
right.
yeah. So but no, I think that served him really well later in life because when he did come into challenges, he was like, oh yeah, I know that I can do things that don't seem comfortable. I can pick myself up and.
But it's very unusual, right? Most people, if they're lucky, get to do what they're good at.
Yeah, sure.
And here's a guy who was good at something that just said, I'm going to go do something else because this is too easy.
Yeah, stretch myself.
It's just that's not a norm.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how
Well,
many,
though
how
you-
many
you-
It's like the
world-class
entrepreneurial
guitarists
spirit,
decide to
though.
go
Pick up piano playing.
But there are some, and that's incredible. And you know what? They're the people who tend to own homes in Bahamas, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Or think of Branson, right? I mean, he was really good at what his first business was, which was
The magazine, the music magazine.
Yeah, music. Yep. And it wasn't like he was saying, "Oh, I'm so good at this, but I'm sick of it. I'm going to move on to something else." But I think that once you're able to be successful at something and see how it works, some minds just need to be constantly stimulated by learning something
but
new.
I think there's something. It's different, I would think, in the physical world. I mean, a physical challenge. I mean, again, if you are very fast, or you can throw a ball fast or something, just to walk away from that and to go find another. I guess Michael Jordan tried it with baseball.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Bo Jackson nailed it.
oh, well, right. There's Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders,
Who's
a couple of
But
guys that can do it.
He was a horticulturist.
But to take your point and bring it back to sort of the average person, 'cause, you know, the Bo Jacksons of the world, we're not all going to be that person.
Right.
But a mistake that most people make, there's something they're really good at. Say they're a decent hockey player. At 40, 50, 60, they're still playing hockey, and they're clinging on to this one thing that they were good at.
Right.
Something that I've learned over the years is that taking up something that you're not good at any point in your life is the best thing you could possibly do.
Well,
So if
you did it recently with paddleboarding.
Absolutely, yeah,
awesome.
that's right. Just jumped into a 50-kilometer paddleboard race out of the blue, and I wasn't good at it. I'm still not great
And
at
you
it.
can't even swim.
And that's why I didn't fall off the board. But but what I mean though is, if somebody's a great hockey player, they're going to spend the rest of their life becoming a less great hockey player. But they could at 50 go play volleyball for the first time ever, and at 53 be better than they were at 50. So there really is something to be said at any point in your life for taking up something you're not good at, because that keeps your neurons growing, keeps your brain firing, keeps everything connecting as opposed to decaying. And we see great master athletes who
Absolutely.
take up running in their 70s. There's a guy ran a marathon at 101 years old up in Toronto. He didn't start running until he was 70. So, you interviewed a guy, became a cop at 72.
Jimmy Benz.
Jimmy
Jimmy
Benz.
Jimmy Benz.
You'll see that if you go back and look up on our website.
So this
You'll see
isn't to argue
Jimmy
with you,
Benz.
it's to agree with you. I mean,
No,
it
I-
isn't
no.
normal, but it
No.
should be to
But
take up new stuff.
I agree.
I mean, there's a
You
concept
do
of
it-
like
I'm
a
sorry to interrupt.
renaissance
You do it in
man
the
and
military.
woman.
You talked about it
Yeah.
on one of the podcasts.
Well, no, the military, I think, recognizes it, and they move you. They move you about every 2 years, and they give you different jobs, different responsibilities. You're right. You kind of get to where you think you know what you're doing, and then you go to someplace else and get a different job.
Isn't that what the whole special operations training is in that whole first year, right? Or you go to
Well,
eight different
that's
schools,
guys
or
guys
right.
getting a qualification in schools.
Yeah.
But for officers, you normally, anyway, it's not part of this podcast. You'll move every couple of years. They want to grow you in experience and responsibility.
So I think the takeaway here is try something new,
Yep.
no matter how comfortable you are with what you're doing.
Yep.
Not a new wife or husband, something new in sports or something like that. You can learn more about Dr. Johnny Waite on SpartanUpPodcast.com. You can learn
And
more.
for those not watching the video, that's in quotes.
You can learn more about Sephra and her wilderness exploits out here in Pittsfield, or Colonel Nye, who takes up singing on the side.
Love.
And his interactive corner you'll find on the website where you can communicate directly with him and target friends that maybe you don't like any longer.
And on that note,
We'll see.
the Spartan Up podcast is brought to you by Spartan Race.
To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com. For show notes, video, and audio of this episode, visit SpartanUpPodcast.com /042.